All right, here we go.
Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My intrepid co-host, Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour over a year ago in the throes of the pandemic to help everybody stay connected while we were apart. Help us all gather around a little virtual campfire, telling each other lies. And gosh, it's just so nice and warm here. I haven't wanted to leave. So it's good to see so many familiar faces, and it's great to see some new ones here tonight as well. As always, we have two writers reading for their favorite nonprofits. Tonight's readers are Marion Deeds and Can Wiggins. If you are fortunate enough to help others during this time, please continue a donation to one or both of tonight's featured nonprofits, Redwood Empire Food Bank and Multiple Sclerosis Center of Atlanta. Marion Deeds is reading for Redwood Empire Food Bank. Redwood Empire Food Bank has over 300 distribution sites in the 5 California counties it serves: Del Norte, Humboldt, Lake, Mendocino, and Sonoma. Within these sites, it operates 11 programs under 3 strategic initiatives: Every Child Every Day, Senior Security, and Neighborhood Hunger Network. You can learn more at refb.org. Ken Wiggins is reading for the Multiple Sclerosis Center of Atlanta, providing comprehensive healthcare services for people living with multiple sclerosis. MCSA is Atlanta's leading nonprofit for MS treatment and research. MCSA provides patients and their families with access to the latest in research, education, and treatment options. You can learn more at mscatl, that's so Aztec looking to me, .org. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to leave your camera on. It can be really great to see the live audience and feel like we're all at an in-person reading together. But you can keep your camera off if you prefer, we understand. And we have the lovely text chat where we can chime in anytime you like. If you're joining us on Facebook, thank you so much. We're so glad you're here, but we may not be able to keep up with your messages in real time. Sorry. So our first reader tonight is Can Wiggins. Can Wiggins can be found where the woodbine twineth on any given day or night. While her sweet spot is called Southern Gothic, she likes serving a combo platter of horror and science fiction fantasy with 2 sides, usually noir and spec. Particular to grimmer fairy tales and mythos, she is a dedicated cinephile and, of course, a bibliophile. Her stories are in Planet X publications, Oxygen Man books, and upcoming pubs she can't talk about this time. Soon, darling, soon. Ken, welcome. Thank you for probably the most entertaining bio anyone's ever sent me to read.
Well, always, once a writer, always a writer.
So we'd love to hear the story you've brought for us tonight. What have you brought for us?
Haint. 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 Is everyone familiar with that term?
I'm thinking of paint blue on the ceilings.
Very good. Pretty good for someone who may not be from the South, but I appreciate it. And I'll just dive in if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Everybody knows old Betty Turner's a little crazy. She's lived by herself too long, and it's turned her mind loose a bit. And good Lord, if I saw that face when I looked in a mirror, I'd be touched in the head too. Nobody knows how old she is, and that's God's truth. My granny said Betty was just about grown when she was a girl, so she might be near 100 years on this earth. But she's a good soul in a manner of speaking. She'll do anything she can to help you out. You got to ask nice, though. You got to call her Miss Betty. But that's just manners, ain't it? You got to use your manners. Don't want to embarrass your folks. And you sure don't want to get on old Betty's bad side. It ain't on account of her being crazy, and I'm happy to tell you the story why. Old Betty had one thing she loved, and that was her hog, a razorback she called Rawhead. It's a right strange name, but he was a right strange creature. Betty had heard this outlandish story about some wild thing named Rawhead, and she thought that name would suit her hog fine. Laugh if you want to, but she loved that hog like it was her little baby. It loved her right back, too. My granny said that animal could talk and sing, but I always thought that was just a story people made up to scare us young'uns. Turned out I was wrong. Betty was bone tired. She had been looking for Rawhead, that got dang hog, for over an hour. A storm was rolling in, slow but steady, and she wanted him put up, safe and sound in what was left of the barn. Big as he was, Rawhead was scared of thunderstorms. He squealed at each crack, grunted at each boom, his little red eyes fearful but murderous as he tried escaping from the sights and sounds breaking around him. Betty was small. Her two sisters were much bigger, both of them 6-footers, raw-boned and as muscled from working the land as any man. They were all good girls and grew up to be strong women. Besides working the land, they did what they wanted to, with or without others. And others meant men, of course. They didn't believe they needed a man in order to be a woman. Betty was full of grit and didn't suffer fools nor anyone else gladly. When their mother died, and Betty herself was injured in the same accident, Betty disappeared for a good long while. When she came back, in more or less one piece, well, Betty had always been a little different. She and her sisters lived in a big plain house situated on land that had been in her family before Washington was president. Acre upon acre, full of old and new growth, with trees, shrubs, and plants that came right up to what she called a yard. Those woods were full of game, turkey, deer, and very rarely a sounder of hogs. There was a stream that snaked through the land, disappearing under the house, buttressed by beehives and old gravestones that jutted up out of the ground like jagged teeth. And Betty oversaw it all. That's what she had always done. She saw to their little spot on the tired old world. She couldn't remember doing anything else. The other sisters worked hard, worked with their hands and backs, cooked and cleaned, sewed and washed, chased dirt out. She worked with flowers and weeds, birds and reptiles. She cooked spells and found lost things, sometimes lost things with a heartbeat. That's how she found Rawhead. But really, he had found her. He trotted into the backfield right up to her, little and lost and scared. She had known he was different as soon as she laid eyes on him. She had known he wasn't like the other wild things, just like he knew she wasn't like other people. Nobody wanted a wild hog on their land. They tore the soil up, terrorized and killed other creatures, fouled every water supply there was. But Rawhead didn't. Rawhead wouldn't. He was happy to trot along beside Betty for company, especially after the accident. He sensed her sadness and fear and stuck close to her. Like a damn dog, Arizona said. And now Betty whistled and called to him like he was a dog. She didn't like thinking he was hurt. As much as she wanted him alive, she worried about having to set a limb or digging a bullet out of his hide. She didn't have to worry long. A splintering crack came low to the ground. That wasn't the sound of thunder. That was the sound of a gun that meant business. She took off at a dead run, screaming for her sisters, screaming for Rawhead. She heard the sickening sound of a high-pitched squeal, and then a second shot. No! Her scream was raw and shrill, causing crows to take flight as she ran through the wilderness. Branches from pine trees slapped and scratched her face as she tore through the brush. She smelled what could only be gunpowder, and when she got a faint whiff of a familiar stench of sweat and tobacco, Hair tonic and liquor, she tore out of the bush and almost immediately came to a dead stop. She spotted a slick of blood near a trail she often used. Suddenly, the light went out of the forest. Nothing felt real now. She struggled to keep from crying, but felt her face twisting as hot tears gathered in her eyes. Betty searched for tracks, her back bent to the task as she scrutinized the ground and everything growing on or out of it. You ain't far from here now, are you? Ain't no way alive. Ain't no way you're alive now. Is there, baby boy? He couldn't answer her, but she already knew the answer. Everything seemed so still. She found him soon enough, stretched out under his favorite tree as if taking a nap. She walked right up to him, her soul leaving her body when she determined he was dead. Shot. Whoever had done it hadn't even taken him with them. Of course, they just left him. No time to butcher him, only time to kill him. Betty reckoned her screaming Mimi arrival had run them off. Her tears finally spilled, scalding her cheeks. Sitting down beside him, Betty stroked his side as if soothing him, his hard bristles pricking her flesh like needles. Her weeping intertwined with a tune she always hummed or whistled when walking with him out in the field. She despised crying, but she couldn't help herself. She kept wiping the wet off her face and upper lip with a wrist. She sat there as the storm finally stopped blustering and broke overhead, drenching her to the bone. And that's where her sisters found her when they came looking. Bet, you get up from there. Stop that squalling now. Ain't going to bring that poor old pig back. He wasn't a pig, Arizona. He was my hog, my razorback. Betty's voice splintered the air, and her sisters watched a bird fall out of the sky, trailing smoke. He was my baby. Her cries reached down into the dark, cool earth where Rawhead had been laid to rest. You're going to kill something that don't need killing if you don't stop soaking the ground with that poison. Dry that up right now. Delpha, her long red hair tied back with a leather strap, sat down beside her baby sister. She knew to not touch her. Betty could be dangerous even on a good day, and Betty hadn't had a good day for 24 hours. I'm so sorry, baby. She looked up at Arizona from her spot on the hard scrabble ground. Arizona, maybe get her something cool to drink. She's cried out all her water, I bet. The forevermore, Arizona said, staring down at Betty. She sighed and finally squatted down beside her. I'm going to go get you some well water. You sit right here and get yourself calmed down now. We will take care of this, I promise, but you have to be calmed down before we go any further. She leaned down and tapped Betty on a thin shoulder. You hear me, little? Betty nodded as Arizona set off towards the well. When she was out of earshot, Betty turned towards Delpha. I bet you it was Wood Stewart. I bet you money. I know that smell. Her green eyes narrowed to slits. He's always coming on our land, our private land still, and shooting something. Signs posted don't matter. He's too goddamn lazy to go do real hunting. We're right here, and he knows we've got game on our land, and he's stealing. Pure and simple. Son of the bitch is stealing. I bet he's the one taking the tomatoes out of the garden. We can't prove that. Delpha reached out, smoothing back Betty's thick coils of wild black hair. We can't prove that yet, little. Can't go off half-cocked now. Oh, there ain't no going off half-cocked, Betty said. She rose to her feet, slapping the dirt off her backside with both hands. Wood Stewart can't keep his mouth shut even if he messes something up. He'll talk someday if he ain't already talking, and it'll get back to me before you know it. All I gotta do is put my ear to the goddamn ground. Arizona gave one sharp, clean whistle as she made her way back to the others. She carried a tin dipper and walked in a smooth gait so as not to spill any liquid. That well water came right up when I whistled for it. She winked at Betty. All I had to do was say, "Little's dry." Despite her anger and grief, the youngest girl's face softened at her sister's words. Arizona always knew just what to say. It was a gift as far as she was concerned. "Y'all are good sisters," she whispered. "I've been fortunate, everything considered." The love she felt in that moment for them both, her protectors, her true counsel, took root where she stood. As they walked back to the house, violets bloomed in her wake. Rage and grief make a powerful stew. To ease Betty into some semblance of rest, Arizona had done some tracking, then she had done what she was really good at. She talked with the women. The grandmothers, the hunters' wives, the girlfriends. It had taken her more hours than she would have liked, but the next day she announced that yes, Wood Stewart had been the one to shoot Rawhead. "He run off when he heard something coming through the woods for him," she said. "Told it sounded like a Hank was after him." Betty was determined Wood Stewart would pay for eternity after what he had done to Rawhead. She knew she couldn't work this particular hoodoo without her sister's help, so she set about winning them over to her idea. "He could have just as easy shot me," she said. "I go out there in the backwoods all the god-dang time." Delphi said, "I don't think anybody, not even Wood Stewart, would mistake you for a hog, Little." "Or anything else," Arizona added. She gave Betty a sour look before setting out to hitch the plow up to the mule. They did everything from planting to harvesting, from cooking to eating by the old ways. "You know Mama would never have allowed us to do what you're wanting to do," Delphi said. "Well, Mama ain't here to ask." "I guarantee she's rolling in her grave right now over this idea of yours," Arizona snapped. "I want you to hush that up, Little. I mean it. You're wanting to do something you cannot take back once you start it, and you can't fix it if it goes wrong. Mama ain't around to show you." "I know who is still around," Betty said. Too late. She realized her mistake in speaking her backup plan aloud. Arizona whipped around fast as a snake. Her face threatened to crack open and unveil what lay beneath. "Don't you dare. Don't you even think of going in that direction. I will drag your ass off the road myself. I will put you under the house if that's what it takes to keep you away from that." "She's a root worker, that's all," Betty said. "Like Mama was." Arizona's voice cut like a knife. "That bitch ain't nothing like Mama. She works a dark Little, you know that." She towered over Betty, fixing to pop some sense into her when a wasp flew between them. She took note of this sign and wonder and backed off, pointed in the direction the pest had gone and said, "That's a warning sure as you're born, Elizabeth. That was Mama, far as I'm concerned." "I doubt Mama would send a wasp, Arizona." She used a withering tone, but Arizona was having none of it. "She'd send whatever would work to get your hard head turned around. Lord, you are like a little child in your 20s and still acting like a young'un." Delphi moved between them. She laid a gentle hand on Betty, whose face rippled with anger and frustration, grief and desperation. "I want you to look at me, Little. Can you look at me, for God's sake, just for a second?" No, Betty was stubborn to a fault. "I think there's a way to fix this." Delphi's words were more hiss than voice, so unlike her. "Do tell," Arizona snapped. She bristled with aggravation. Being the oldest was hell. "Well, I know how. I know how to draw the dark." Delphi bobbed her head as they gaped at her. "Mama taught me." "Do tell," said Betty. "I will, but before we do anything," Delphi stared at Betty. "Anything at all, we got to paint. It's a known fact. There's a particular shade of blue painted on porch ceilings throughout the South that keeps away evil spirits, attributed to the Gullah people in the coastal areas of Georgia and South Carolina. This color is somewhere between robin's egg blue and plain old blue-green. The hue of the sky or sea, it is not. It is something different. It's haint blue. That was the color the sisters painted on their porch ceilings before working their hoodoo. It would keep them all in good stead. It would keep Hanks away too, as well as bees and wasps. They barely spoke as they worked, knowing they were going to do something that could not be taken back. They had to be sure, for once started, it could be no stopped. It could not be stopped. There was no fixing it. It was the fix. But an occasional grievance came from one of the older sisters. I wish to Christ Almighty we could have caught him killing her hog, Delpha whispered. I wish we could have caught him when he set fire to the house, took Mama, nearly killed Little. Arizona's voice was equally quiet, but her tone was vicious as a dog bite. You know he did. Nobody would believe us. Of course not. A smell like sulfur hung in the air that evening when they went out for justice. That ain't swamp gas, I'll warrant, Arizona said. It was harder to walk backwards than any of them would have thought. It was harder not to look at one another or speak once they reached the old cemetery. The moon was full, hanging above them like a great pearl, and Betty's eyes glowed like green fire when Delpha spoke the words that were a bridge between the living and the dead. Things, dark things, best not mentioned, passed between and around them. The air was freezer cold as the stink of the grave rolled over them, followed by the eternal promise of renewal as a soft summer wind full of flowers and living things wafted through the night. Arizona never told them. She pissed her drawers, since she was sure they could smell her when they walked back home. She never mentioned how Elizabeth's face changed from human to something else again and again, how her teeth turned to tusks and back to teeth. Never spoke of Delpha's hair turning to thick strands that became snakes, coiled around her limbs, as if old Mr. Scratch himself was trying his best to rein her in as her voice spilled into eternity. That night felt like it lasted forever, but it was done and over in the blink of an eye. They walked forwards out of that place, Betty between her sisters, all of them holding hands. Wood Stewart descended into a sad state that summer. His table manners had always been slack, but now he picked up his plate and ate right off of it, licking up whatever crumbs or juices remained with his fat pink tongue. Too much moonshine, some folks said. Maybe not enough, said others. He claimed there was a hog after him. I mean, it's after me, chasing me, following me, he said. Nobody thought much of it at first. Wood had always been a talker, exaggerating if not making shit up to remain at the center of everyone's attention, like a child who had not been bragged on enough at home. He insisted there was a feral hog following him now. He swore that hog walked right up to the edge of town, that he saw it on his property around sundown. Wood Stewart could not make his way back to where those Turner women lived, although he knew the way there and back like the back of his hand, and he walked it again and again like he always had. The road just wouldn't cooperate. He kept ending up in an old cemetery. That's where he first saw the hog. He always saw the hog in that cemetery, and it always had his face. The end.
Ah, what a voice. I love that. I think the humidity just rose in here and the heat. I just feel like I'm somewhere up in the Smokies, maybe. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you so
that
much.
was it. And it was published a year and a half, 2 years ago when I was really getting going again in a Planet X pulp publication called The Phantasmagorical Promenade. Ghost stories, scary stories, you know,
Wonderful.
the kind you used to hear around the campfire or during Christmas.
We like those here. Feel free to drop the link if you've got it. We'd love to be able to find it again.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I'll see.
Moving from one writer to another, we always need a moment to just take a breath, sometimes let a breath out. and ready ourselves for the next story. So our next writer is Marion Deeds. Marion Deeds is the author of Comeuppance Served Cold, coming from Tor.com Books in March 2022. It's a Prohibition-era story with magic, speakeasies, and women who upend the power structure. It's pretty badass. She has also written the Copper Road series, a portal fantasy, for Falstaff Books. Her short fiction has appeared in Podcastle, Daily Science Fiction, and several anthologies. Deeds is a columnist and reviewer for fantasyliterature.com. She lives in Northern California with her husband, volunteers in a secondhand bookstore, and feeds the local crows. She enjoys watching the backyard squirrels do yoga. Marion, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you both for inviting me.
Delighted to have you. This is a great night. So what are you going to read us?
I'm going to read two flash pieces. The first one appeared in Flash Fiction Online in April of 2017. Neither one is scary, but this first one might be scary, a little bit scary or traumatic if you have ever given a presentation and had a person in the audience who constantly interrupted you. Otherwise, it's just a straight fantasy story. And I'll get to it here. It's called Strays. The shoes followed me, wagging their button heels and giving out high-pitched little whines. I hadn't called them. I hadn't made eye contact. I mean, I wasn't born yesterday, but I heard them back there. Busy rehearsing the next day's presentation to the city planning board, preparing for the agenda jumper I knew would derail me, I hadn't noticed the pile of discards near the bus stop until it was too late. Thrown out clothes, broken lunchboxes, incomplete board games, there they were, the shoes, and they saw me. I went straight home. Allison, you've got shoes following you, my roommate Rona said. Should I let them in? God, no. She peered out the door. Wow, those look old, museum old. Are you sure I'm sure. I swear I could hear them whining outside while I tried to sleep. I needed a good night's sleep, damn it. I needed to be primed for Dixon Selfer, self-anointed expert of everything, and his interruptions. But I could hear them. They would whine, and they would tap anxiously on the sidewalk outside my window. I couldn't take any more. I let them in. They trotted into my room and lined up at the end of the bed. They were pretty. The uppers were cream-colored leather, darkened to pale gold in the creases. Large flowers in blue, gold, and brown, outlined with gold embroidery, covered their sides and the large square tongues. Low tapering heels ended in what looked like rounded buttons. Rona was right. They were museum old, shabby, and somehow regal. Rich, feminine. Nothing like me. I wore neutral colors, kept my hair short, never wanting my appearance to distract from my message. Look at me shoes just weren't, well, me. I went back to bed. The next morning, I kept tripping over them. They followed me into the kitchen and nudged my feet as I drank my tea. No begging, I said. Rona, sitting at the table drinking coffee, said, someone's got shoes. No, I don't. I just didn't want them to tangle with the ugly Christmas sweaters in the alley, I said, and it was true. Those sweaters could be mean. Rona gave me her polished, skeptical look, one mouth corner and one eyebrow raised. Rona's a feral objects adoption assistant at a local shelter, so she knows a lot. She decided to change the subject, though, because she said, so how bad is today going to suck? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10. The presentation was for a proposed community park. Selfer, the deputy assistant city planner, was our liaison. The dick will interrupt an agenda jump and somehow I'll end up looking like a scatterbrained incompetent. Nah, you're the queen of competence and everyone knows it. The shoes wiggled. They're sure cute, Rona said. Can I try them? At her words, they hid behind my legs. I guess not, she said. You should wear them. Maybe they'll distract the dick. They look like they'd fit. Is that how some of the things pick people? By size? Usually people pick them. Rona stroked the dented gray pocket watch she'd adopted. It ticked contentedly. Never late, Rona. Some objects pick folks, though, like those shoes. You should wear them. Too fancy. I got dressed and stood looking down at my inert, sensible flats. The stray pair stood in the doorway, quivering. They were pretty. More than pretty, they were elegant. Did one of them yip? I beckoned and they ran over. They did fit perfectly. The bus was delayed because the driver had to shoo off a flock of used coats that had tried to nest on the roof. But sooner than I wanted, I was walking into the conference room. Great shoes, a woman said as I headed to the front. The Dick gulped coffee from his bleeding edge, self-warming smart coffee cup, texting with his other hand. He didn't look up. Good morning, I said. I'll be presenting is this presentation going to cover the reclaimed water plan? Dick said. Wow, not even through my introductory sentence. I paused, my chest tightening. My feet suddenly vibrated. People in the front row looked up. Were the shoes growling? My toes tingled. You have the agenda on your devices, I said. That should answer your question. Our vision of, I hope you made some better decisions about the sports field. Strength bubbled up through the soles of my feet like water from a spring. Without willing it, I straightened my spine. Mr. Selfer, your board invited me to present the overview. I'd like to get on with it. You have your details in your material, and I've set aside time for questions and comments. Why don't you try holding yours until then? The sports field, a chorus of shh rose from around the room. Stop interrupting all the time, a woman from the city said. Yeah, said a man near the back. Just shut up, Dick. The Dick chugged a mouthful of coffee and scrunched down in his chair. After a second, I said, let me share our vision of the Lee Community Park, and led them through the presentation. I did it elegantly. The shoes sleep by my bed. I wear them out to walk around the block 2 or 3 times a week, and I wear them to certain meetings. The other day at Rona's shelter, I adopted an old silk jacket, cream-colored with embroidered blue and gold flowers. It makes the shoes happy, and I'm happy. They're good shoes. The end. So this second piece, which is a little bit longer, has only been on my blog, but I had fun writing it and it's kind of fun to read. It has 2 inspirations. I'm going to mention both of them. One comment that people make about genre fiction in general and fantasy in particular is that it's often filled with types instead of rounded, multifaceted characters. And I decided to embrace that in this little piece. So I hope you can hear the capitalized titles as I'm reading. For health reasons, several years ago, I seriously cut back my caffeine intake. But every once in a while, either by accident or design, I have a fully caffeinated beverage. And those experiences also inspired this piece. And it's called The Throne of the Slacker Despot. Our roads are rutted. The books in the university library are older than us. There's still no bridge across the Tumble Bucket River. Murph, the passionate university student, banged his glass of juice on the table and tried to look fierce. Shh, his one loyal friend said. They glanced across the tavern, where 2 of the despot's royal guards sat sipping from tankards. I won't be silenced. Murph, the passionate university student, raised his voice. We need action. We need progress. What this country needs is a revolution. One of the despot's royal guards tipped back his head and rolled his eyes. Oh my God, he said, can you keep it down? Otherwise, I'll have to get up, walk all the way over to your table, put my hand on my sword hilt. Don't make me come over there, student. The students immediately grew silent. The guards of the slacker despot are fearsome indeed, Murph whispered. On the anniversary of the victory of the nation's army over some enemy during some war sometime, Murph, the passionate university student, organized a protest march to the castle of the slacker despot. About 30 people joined him. Most were students who wanted to avoid studying for their exams. Some were townsfolk. Amy, the comely tavern maid, joined in because it was her lunch break and she enjoyed walking. They marched from the tavern. They reached Victory Square, where a huge block of granite marked the spot where maybe, someday, the despot would commission a statue carved to commemorate something. 9 of the marchers got tired of walking and stopped for a sandwich. At the crossroads of many things, 6 more remembered something they had to do at home. A block later, 2 more decided to take a nap. 5 paused to skip stones across the still water of the Tumble Bucket River. 5 more, including the one loyal friend, stopped to try on shoes in the cobbler's quarter. Murph and Amy approached the castle. Amy thought they weren't making a very good impression, but she didn't say that because she wanted to be supportive. "I demand to see the despot," Murph, the passionate university student, shouted. The guard shrugged. "Whatever." Murph, the passionate university student, stormed into the great hall where the slacker despot lounged on his throne, his feet dangling over one arm of it, the ancestral crown worn backwards. He was watching a game. His courtiers portrayed the game pieces, each wearing a placard that gave their character's name, talent, and a bit of background. The slacker despot rolled dice and turned over cards. This seemed to be part of the game. Murph, the passionate university student, cleared his throat and pulled out a packet of notes. "Your Majesty, I am a loyal subject." "Who is this guy?" the slacker despot said. He was about the same age as Murph. "Oh, hey, hi," he said to Amy, the comely tavern maid, who curtsied. Murph lost his place. Your Majesty, you must do something." "Like what?" Murph waved his arms because he was a passionate university student. "I don't know, just something. For goodness sake, do something." The slacker despot straightened up. His gaze grew distant. "Yeah," he said, "do something. That sounds good. I will." "You will?" "Uh-huh." "Oh, that's great, Your Majesty. I will carry the word to your people." Murph, the passionate university student, started to back away. 2 steps, and he stopped. Any idea what, Your Majesty?" What? What you'll do?" "Oh, yeah. Something." "Any idea when?" "Oh, you know," the slacker despot shrugged. "Whenever." "The slacker despot is a liar," Murph, the passionate university student, fumed as they headed back to the tavern. "Psst," said the robed, masked man in the shadowy alley. "I can help you, passionate university student." "Sure," said Amy, the comely tavern maid. "That's why you're skulking in an alley, because you're helpful. I am Costco, the enigmatic wizard. I'm in disguise. I have a potion that will cure the despot and help him reach his full potential." "Right," said Amy, the comely tavern maid. "Come on, Murph." "Suit yourself," Costco, the enigmatic wizard said, "but without me, the despot will never do anything." "No," Murph cried passionately. "I can't risk that, Amy." He marched into the alley. The face of Murph, the passionate university student, scrunched up like a crushed sponge. "My God, that's horrible. The despot will never drink that." "I don't know why you did," said Amy, the comely tavern maid, who stood at the mouth of the alley, arms crossed, tapping her foot. "Well, here, try it like this," Costco said. He poured milk into the dark brown potion and added a dollop of honey. Murph tasted it. "Well, it's a little better, but whoa!" His eyes opened wide. "Wow!" "What?" said Amy. "The blood is coursing through my veins," Murph, the passionate university student, shouted. "That's what blood does," said Amy. "Not like this. Whoa, I feel like I could do anything. Costco, my man, what is that stuff?" "It comes from deep in the equatorial jungle. The fruit is picked and dried in the sun for days and days, then roasted over coals and yeah, cut to the chase. What is it?" "It's called coffee. It's harmless, but it will return the despot's ambition to him, which he seems to have lost," said Costco, the enigmatic wizard. "Oh, that is awesome. I'm running back to the castle right now. Let's go. Amy, come on, it'll be fun." "Oh no," Amy, the comely tavern maid, said. "You've gone mad and my break's over. You be careful, Murph." "Ha! Careful's for losers." Murph, the caffeinated, passionate university student, snatched the pitcher of coffee from Costco and bolted away. Amy, the comely tavern maid, shook her head, glared at Costco, and headed back to the tavern. Alone with no one to observe him, Costco cackled and rubbed his hands together. "Soon my plan will come to fruition." "The despot wants a sandwich," the courtier said. "Oh, he does he?" said the irascible castle cook. "Well, I'll tell you, his father never sent some flunky in to demand a sandwich in the middle of the day. You know what he would do if he was hungry? Invade a country, that's what." There was a real despot. Now I'll have to get up, walk all the way over to the cutting board, slice the bread, slice some roast, layer it onto the bread. It's exhausting. Hi, Murph, the passionate university student said, skidding to a stop in the kitchen. Excuse me, hello, I'm a messenger. I bring important tidings for the despot. He had sneaked in through one of the many secret passages that a guard had shown him. The guard did not normally show people the secret passages, but Murph would just not stop talking, and the guard caved under the pressure. Who are you? The irascible castle cook said. I'm a messenger. Try to keep up. I'm bringing the despot the most amazing drink. Here, try it. Put some honey in it. No, 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 not by itself with honey. Honey and milk. Just try it, try it. Go on, take a sip. Shut up, you, said the irascible castle cook. She sipped from the cup Murph had shoved in her face. That's weird. She took another swallow. I don't think the despot will like this. Her eyes opened wide. Wow, that is amazing. She leaped to her feet, catching the falling cup of coffee before a drop spilled. The despot needs a sandwich. That stuff. It smells like burnt wood, but whoa. She sliced up half a loaf of bread, whipped up 3 roast beef and onion sandwiches, and carved a bunch of radishes into rosebuds that she used to garnish the plates. Here, give him this, Murph said, putting the pitcher on the tray next to the plates. Oh, heck yeah, the irascible castle cook picked up the tray. The despot will love this stuff. The despot started projects. Sculptors carved the block of granite into royal coffee tables. Engineers designed a bridge across the tumble bucket. He ordered new books for the university and hired more professors. He ordered that the roads of the city be repaved. To pay for all of this, he raised taxes. Costco, the enigmatic wizard, became the primary provider of the magic coffee beans and changed his name to Costco, the unbelievably wealthy merchant. This is intolerable. We work 10 hours a day. We're expected to serve in the army and complete university in 3 years. Murph, the disgruntled second-generation university student, downed his coffee. His fingers shook, but he ignored that and tried to look fierce. We need a rest. We need vacations. We need calm. What this country needs is a revolution. And so that's it. Thanks again, you guys, for inviting me. And that is The Throne of the Slacker Despot.
What a hoot.
Beleaguered teaching assistant. Yes, she probably is.
We've been having fun making up other epithets, tasteful ones for the characters.
I like them all.
Well, this has been a very enjoyable evening. I have really gotten into the voices that we've been hearing. So thank you both very much.
Well, thank you all. Thanks for coming and listening. Where else can we find your stuff? Oh, she's muted.
Oh, you're
I'm
on
sorry.
mute, Ken.
In chat, so.
You're still on mute, Ken. There you go.
There you go.
It's like my friend said, how can somebody so smart be so technologically dumb? Anyway, it happens. I'll just forget to turn stuff on and off. Oxygen Man books, also by the same editor of the Planet X Pulps, Join Persists. I've got a couple of things coming out, an urban legends anthology that will be coming out, Gordon B. White and Sarah Walker doing that. So I put it up on if you want to find me on Facebook, it's Ken Wiggins.
Okay.
And so anyway, it was great hearing Marion. Loved it. Thanks for the invite again. I loved it, really.
It's been our pleasure.
Yeah, lovely work, both of you. Thank you.
Well, it hasn't been quite an hour, but it's been a story hour because we've had our story. And next week we have another story hour. Next week we're going to have Alex Jennings and Steve Janice reading. You can keep up to date about upcoming authors at storyhour2020.com. It will always be Story Hour 2020. It's establishment here. And you can see programs you may have missed on the Story Hour page on Facebook. It's a great place to go and discover all of the authors who've been there, laugh at the haircuts I've given myself over the past year, all kinds of great stuff. So thank you all for joining us tonight. And thank you, Daniel, for bringing us here in the first place.
Thank you, Daniel.
It's been a lovely campfire with all of you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Marion.
Bye.